In my last segment, I talked about the last dying gasp of an angry anti-Trump media apparatus. You see, in this country, they milked the Trump for 4 years to make money, the Trump bump, as it were. And now that there are fears that Trump is on the way out and the Trump campaign is fighting tooth and nail to win in this legal battle, the media has become shocked, desperate, and scared, which brings me to this one particular moment of great merit. Now, normally I don't like doing segments just about things like this, but it must be said. It must be said because we need to talk about what the media really is. From the Daily Beast, CNN reporter fires back at Kayleigh McEnany's activist snipe. You're not doing your job. What's funnier? Kayleigh McEnany was wrapping up a press secretary, a press event, a conference, and Caitlin Collins of CNN said, tried to ask a question. Kayleigh McEnany says, I don't call on activists. So CNN reporter says, you're not doing your job. Oh, because she won't call on you? It's her job to call on you? Oh, poor baby. Now I have to say, Kayleigh, I hope you're listening because I am offended. I am deeply triggered and offended by you calling Caitlin Collins an activist. How dare you, madam? You see, Caitlin Collins is an activist. That's an insult to activists. Activists believe in a cause. Sometimes they're misguided and sometimes they're not, but they're people who truly believe in fighting for something they believe in. I'm kidding, by the way. I'm not really offended. That was the joke. The point is, Caitlin Collins isn't an activist. She's something much worse. Caitlin Collins, like many other CNN personalities and other media personalities, only do what they do for shock value to get followers. Here's what she tweeted. Appearing in her professional capacity, press secretary takes only a handful of questions in her first briefing since October 1st. Asked why can't call on all reporters, given it's been so long and there are not many of us due to social distancing, she called me an activist. It's understandable why someone who hasn't done their job taking questions from reporters in weeks would confuse someone else doing theirs with activism. Do you know what Caitlin Collins is? It's not media reporting. Her tweet with 5.4 thousand retweets is clapback. That's all it is. It's what these people have become, and it's what these other many of these progressive personalities have become, and even some conservatives. It's all about clapback, where they do those tweets with all the little claps. I am doing my job. You're not doing your job. That's not journalism. Journalism would be raising your hand and saying, I have a question about the campaign's efforts in their legal battles. And if they don't call on you, you say, sometimes they don't call on you. It's not even activism to do what she's doing. You see, if Caitlin Collins said you are trying to undermine democracy and your campaign and you working with Trump is bad for this country, and she has said things like that, then I'd be like, that's you as an activist blurting out and interrupting this, press briefing. But that's not what Caitlin Collins does for the most part. This tweet is not designed to push a cause. This tweet and what she says is not designed to inform her audience. What Caitlin Collins is doing is trying to clap back to get followers on Twitter. Essentially, our political landscape has become that of influencers. And boy, do I loathe what's to come in the future if this is all we have left. Kayleigh McEnany refuses to answer when Donald Trump will concede, arguing president's meeting with Michigan Republicans is not an advocacy meeting. They say White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany refused to say on Friday when Trump will concede to Joe Biden, arguing there's an ongoing litigation the campaign is pursuing first. There is ongoing litigation. We know that 74 million Americans have voted for this president and more votes than any president has gotten in history. She said at her first press briefing since October 1st, any president, not candidate. So Trump did receive the most of any president. There are very real claims the campaign are pursuing, she said of the campaign's ongoing litigation. We are taking it day by day. We will wait for that litigation as it plays out. Biden received nearly 80 million. This we know. They say Daily Mail says 290 votes. That's interesting. McEnany argued the large number of mail-in ballots, more than 65 million Americans use the system for voting, raised questions about the results. This is a system that has never been tried in American history. Mass mail-out voting. It's one we have identified as being prone to fraud. That's a fact. Multiple studies have shown that there is very little voter fraud in mail-in voting, and there have been no reports of major fraud this year. I'm going to stop right there and say, Daily Mail, you're not citing anything. The Daily Mail says without evidence that there are studies. What studies? Where? Because I can talk about that study that came out from Jimmy Carter that said absentee and mail-in voting resulted in a higher likelihood of fraud. Open the door. I can cite the New York Times 2012 piece that said the increase in absentee voting is resulting in an increase in potential fraud. That's me citing things. You can't just say that. But anyway, I know. That's the gist of what the meeting was about, okay? Here is the Daily Beast's take. CNN White House correspondent Caitlin Collins was in no mood for White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany's anti-media snark on Friday afternoon, telling the former pundit turned Trump flack know that she's failing to uphold her taxpayer-funded duties. At the end of her first White House press briefing since October 1st, McEnany refused to take questions, only a handful. Ending her remarks with a pre-written rant about how Democrats and the intelligence community have been unfair to President Trump during the presidency, McEnany started to walk away as reporters shouted at her to take more questions. I don't call on activists, she sniped. I'm not an activist, and you haven't taken questions October 1st, the CNN reporter shouted back at as McEnany fled. And you just took about 5, Kayleigh. That's not doing your job, your taxpayer-funded job. Oh, no. She's not giving you the opportunity to do your clap back finger snap. That's too bad. You're not a journalist. Neither is Jim Acosta. CNN is the Orange Man Bad Network, and I am so looking forward to them selling the network, and I hope Trump buys it. They probably wouldn't sell it to him. They'd probably block the sale on the grounds that Trump would gut the company. But I would love to see a Trump supporter buy CNN and just change the whole thing. It's a worthless network. AT&T knows it, and they're in debt. And it was sold in the first place because it's a worthless network. Did you know that CNN pays something like $6 or $7 million to appear in airports? You ever wonder why that is? They pay for that. That's their value. Their ratings are not particularly good in the first place. But this is where we're at so far. And this is where things are going. Good on you, Kayleigh McEnany, for giving some pushback to the media. And to be fair, I don't think it's necessarily that necessary. I've never been a big fan of, sniping at people or whatever they want to call it. And I do want to make sure I'm absolutely clear that Caitlin Collins is not an activist. These people in media, their whole shtick over the past several years has been, how can I maximize personal brand? Jim Acosta, for instance, would stand up and just ramble. He wouldn't even ask a question. Oh, President Trump, you said in a recent meeting that you wanted to build a wall, but we know the wall. And then you're like, okay, dude, what's the question? Well, hold on, the wall. And then you had that woman who tried to take the mic from him, and then the whole thing happened where nobody knew who shoved who, and it was like, I think this happened. You get the point. Jim Acosta then went on to write a book called The Enemy. I think it was called The Enemy of the People. There you go. I'm promoting you, Jim. How about that? That's what you want, right? This is what they want. They want the sass to generate press for their brand. You know what the funny thing about Caitlin Collins is? I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure she used to work for the Daily Caller, Tucker Carlson's news outlet. Yeah. And Oliver Darcy of CNN, he used to work for Business Insider, and before that, he was a conservative. He tried doing these videos where he'd walk around, doing the gotcha videos where he'd walk up to people and be like, "You're a dumb lib," and then answer the question. There's a period where Oliver Darcy of CNN, he interviewed me because I defended free speech. I said it's bad that Twitter is banning the alt-right, the slippery slope. And so he interviewed me, actually published a piece talking about why the alt-right should be allowed to speak. Now Oliver Darcy claims everything that I don't like is fake news. They're not activists. There's something worse. They're pretending to care about a cause. They feign interest in any of this stuff. Meanwhile, they're just checking their tweet numbers, their retweet numbers, their likes, and trying to drum up some kind of attention. That's it. Look, I'll tell you what I am. I'm a dude who complains about his feelings on the internet. You're never going to see me go to a press briefing and just yell. Mike Cernovich did it. Mike Cernovich went to a press briefing and yelled, "Why aren't you doing your jobs at them?" But guess what? Mike Cernovich isn't going around pretending to be a journalist, nor is he working for CNN. In fact, the dude is a Trump supporter, at least as far as I can tell. I mean, I don't know where he currently stands, but he was one of the most prominent Trump supporters, one of the most prominent conservatives, and his whole bit was being politically active. So when he yelled at the press, that was a legitimate complaint. The only problem is he was yelling at political commentators and pundits and clapback sass artists. That's all they really were, and it's all they really are. And so you know what? There's one thing that I would look forward to, assuming that Trump does end up leaving the White House. The media's sad, grotesque, and brutal demise. They're not going to get the ratings. People like Jim Acosta won't be able to get the clicks anymore. No one's going to care. What's he going to do? Tweet about Joe Biden? No. Nobody cares about Joe Biden. Nobody wanted to vote for Joe Biden. Okay, maybe some people wanted to vote for Joe Biden, but most people just voted against Donald Trump. And so that's the reality of what's about to happen. The media is burning down. I've been saying it for a while, they secretly love Trump. They love all the attention they get. They love the fight, but the fight is going away for the most part. They're still talking about going after Trumpism, and the culture war is not going to stop. But maybe Trump isn't going to leave. So I don't know exactly what we can expect. But it'll be really weird if Trump somehow finds a way to stay in the White House. And I mean, it'll be weird with the media. Trump finding a way to stay in the White House, we know what's going on with that. But I'm sure they have their fingers crossed right now. Oh, I can't say it publicly, but I hope Trump wins. Because, the alternative is you're fired. Nobody needs you if you can't generate revenue for their company. And all you do is complain about Trump. So good luck with that. I'll leave it there. I got one more segment coming up in just a few minutes. Stick around, and I will see you all shortly.